Now, to complete this section, there are two other aspects that also belong to security. I showed you some important attacks before. Now I'm not showing attacks to you, but I'm going to show some mistakes to you, which you as a developer could make when you write your backend code. And these mistakes are that you might be serving folders statically that shouldn't be served statically, and that you actually might be sending raw error messages to your visitors because you might not be handling errors correctly on your backend. Now, what do I mean with serving the wrong folders statically? In our websites, we sometimes need to serve some content statically. We often do this with the Express static middleware, and then, for example, I'm serving the content of the public folder statically so that all the pages of my website can access these CSS files without issues. Now, what happens technically there is that requests are sent to these files. Now, let me show you what the implications of that are. If I dive into the XSS folder here and I start this server there again, and we then visit localhost 3000, if you open the developer tools and you open the network tab and reload, you will see requests for these CSS files there because the loaded page did include links to these files in the head section. And for these links, requests will be sent for those files by the browser automatically. And then once the requests are done, once the files were returned, the browser uses them for applying the styling. That's the wanted behavior here. But it also means that you can send requests for these files. Nothing's stopping you from creating a URL that looks like this: the domain/styles/base CSS, because that's the path to these CSS files. And if you send this, you can see the CSS code here. Now, that's no problem because that's no information that shouldn't be viewed, and you can view it with the DevTools anyways. You can see which styles are affecting which element, but that is what it means when you are serving files statically. They can be requested just like this. Now, since I'm serving the public folder statically, that means that anything in that public folder can be requested just like this. Hence, you of course should not put any data or any files in there that should not be publicly accessible. You shouldn't store user data in there, in text or JSON files. You shouldn't store a password file in there. You should only have files in the public folder that may be accessed by the public. You also, for example, shouldn't start serving the overall folder statically like this, because then all your code files would be accessible like this and people could read your backend code. They normally can't, but if you start serving all the files in your project statically like this, they will be able to do so. And you definitely don't want that. And that's what you should keep in mind when you're serving files statically. All the statically served files can be requested without any problems, and hence you want that for your CSS, for your browser-side JavaScript, and for some images, but you do not want that for other files. So be careful when serving content statically and don't serve the wrong folder statically. Now, what's up with errors? Well, you want to make sure that whenever something goes wrong in your backend code, which can happen, that you are handling this error somehow. For example, with that default Express error handling function, so that you send back a standardized error message or page to your users. Now, therefore, you should, for example, make sure that you do have a custom error handling functionality in place, and that this error object, which contains all the details, is not forwarded like that to the front end. And you don't want to output all the error details on your main page, because it's nothing your users should see. Instead, simply use a generic error page there, as I'm doing it here. That's also something you should keep in mind. And that was the last thing I also wanted to cover here, to make sure that you don't add any vulnerabilities or leaks to your website where you might be exposing more information or more access than you want to.